Hi everyone, this is Jenny. I'm going to do a layout for the Scrap Our Stash challenge for December. It's the second challenge of December. And there's a sketch with it, and then the stash challenge is to use border punches and other punches. So I'm going to go through my list of, or some of the things I've pulled real quick. These are the pictures I wanted to use. I'm not quite ready to give up on fall yet. Here in the South, we still have lots of sort of fall weather and not quite as much wintry weather yet. So this was a leaf that was buried under some other leaves and has sort of been bleached and splotched, and I just thought it was really pretty. And so that's a picture of my daughter holding it. So the sketch calls for 2 photos. I'll show it here. Sorry about the picture tinting. It shows the 2 photos, and it's sort of got a mat with some horizontal lines and then some things sort of hanging down and the journaling there. Obviously, you know, it could be for Christmas, which actually I had planned to do some of these ornament kind of ideas, but I thought it might be neat to do something like leaves or hearts or something falling to go along with the picture. So that's the sketch. And I was really inspired by this piece of paper that's, it's Lily Bee and Amy Heller. It's her collection, and I love the color, I love the wood grain, and it just, it felt fallish without, you know, being too Halloweeny. That's the opposite side, is some cute apples, but I'm going to use this wood as the main background, I believe. And I've got this piece of POW paper that is gorgeous. It's sort of a champagne-y gold color. I think it's called, well, it's just gold, but I may cut out something from the silhouette, or I may use this as part of the punched border pieces behind the photo. I've got this picture, this piece of Studio Calico paper left from a Scrapbook Circle kit and some vellum. And this are also from a Scrapbook Circle kit that's I thought looked good with that gold paper, so that might be the title. And then I've pulled a whole pile of other things, some of these Amy Tan stickers. I thought about using the, I don't know, maybe the arrows, or maybe that, yeah, I don't know if I'll use that. And I've had this for a while. It's Heidi Grace. I got it from Michael's. And I love and I've used it before on cards where I've just cut out the little individual sort of stump of paper, and I thought that might be kind of a neat thing to have with the gold peeking out underneath it or not. And the other part of this, which is, I'm sure that's really right, it's a copper color. It's really cool, but I think that may be a little too much. So I might use a piece of that. I forgot that I had it. It was sort of buried under all the other things. And let's see, I've pulled a bunch of other things that I'd like to use and may or may not use. I thought about using one of these for either the journaling or for part of the background. It's the craft glassine bags. And some other things from, it's Graphic 45. They're metal clothespins, so I was kind of thinking along this sort of metal, kind of brown, you know, look. And these are these hearts from Pink Paisley that are that copper color, and I thought they might be the thing that falls down instead of ornaments, so I thought about hanging them off of a piece of that. Some cute flare from Panda 8, and I was thinking about using the 2013, and some other banners and some other pieces that are just along that same kind of color wave. And then I actually loved, and I kept these tags. They're from some napkins I bought from West Elm, and it's just a white. It almost looks like it's sort of embossed on there, white on that craft paper. I thought it was really pretty. So I was kind of thinking about using that sort of as inspiration to do something on these craft bags, you know, with a stencil and with white, or I don't know. And some other little pieces, bits and pieces from things. I thought about using these little arrows like above the journaling or for part of the title. and some other little wood veneers, and these fun little copper colored leaves. So I'm either going with the leaf theme or the hearts, or maybe a little bit of both. And I may use this little piece of flair that's exclusive to Scrapbook Circle with a little house and heart. Just thought that was cute. So I've kind of pulled a bunch of stuff that was sort of sitting on my desk, left over from other projects, and so I'm going to call this kind of like a junkyard layout, where I just sort of throw everything that's on my desk into it and try to use up some of this stuff. So I've just got the postage stamp punch, and I've got another punch that is the Recollections. It's the stitch punch, so I may use that. And then I thought about using some of these. This is Jenni Bolin punch for sort of part of the little things hanging down, or I'm not sure which one of these will be the regular punch. I've got to house those. So that is what I'm thinking. So I'm going to get started, and I will be back in a second to talk through it.
Okay, I'm going to get started here by cutting my photos down and just trying to figure out where I wanted to place them. I thought I wanted to have the starburst, you know, behind just the sort of middle of the photos, and that pretty much went with the sketch as well, so that worked out all right. And I'm just trying to decide kind of what goes with what. I found these sort of pockets and little insert tags or journaling cards from Basic Gray, and so I decided to use that as the matte pieces, so I could also use it for journaling or tuck something else inside. So I'm just trying to figure out that. The glassine bag actually was, that craft glassine bag was, the color was much more yellow, and it didn't, this paper was a little bit more pinkish, and so it didn't really work well, so I just decided not to use it at all. And I pulled that We Are Memory Keepers journaling card out, and I used a little piece of it. That's one of the punches I use. It's just the notebook edge punch, which I use a lot, and I just punched the top of that little library card journaling piece. And I'm just going to kind of get the basic layout of where everything is, so then I can try to decide what to do with that piece behind the sort of wood grain stump pieces. This is the other edge punch I use. That's just a postage edge, and I punched out one side, and I end up punching out both sides of that piece of How paper, and cut it down to have as the main background for the mat. I had actually cut this from the silhouette to use on something else and decided it would be perfect for this, but it was really that just white cardstock, so I just tinted it down just a little bit with some Distress ink and some other Hero Arts ink. I love just cutting a pile of things like that out of white cardstock and then either painting it or, you know, doing that sort of distress ink on it to just get it to match. It is a little very matchy, but this is, you know, all about fall, so I would say it's themey without being too themey. I don't know if that makes sense, but so I'm going to pop up my photos and get an idea of where everything's going to be, so I could cut down that wood paper. I don't know what you would even call that. It's not really paper. I guess it's a die cut. I thought about using some of those overlays, but decided not to in the end. And I wanted some of the punched edge, that scalloped edge, obviously to peek out because that was part of the challenge. But at the same time, I wanted a lot of those wood pieces to kind of be off of the edge. So a lot of that POW paper you don't see as much of it, but I still think you get a pretty good effect of it. And it's a very nice subtle gold. It's very muted. It's not brassy, and it looks very similar to the thickers I end up using. So I think it worked out well. So I'm trying to decide how that's going to work, and then that's before I punch the other edge. So now I'm trying to decide whether I wanted to use those leaves for the piece hanging down, or the hearts, or some little wood veneer banners. I pretty much stuck to the sketch, except I put my journaling on that card, and then the part where they show the journaling in the sketch is sort of stacked. I actually used these little wood veneer arrows. And I had really planned to keep it a lot more simple in terms of color, but I love that. I just love that wood grain color. It reminds me of sort of rose gold, which is seems very trendy right now, and so that's why I kind of used that copper and some of those pinks and a little bit more of the kind of pinky tones of the wood. I used I cut that one piece out, but that's how I use my other punch. You'll see in a bit on that top left corner. And I did use that metal clothespin there. It's the one that says unique. I thought about misting those, but I decided to leave them white because there is some other white. I really love the way that Love Her die cut piece from Ellie Studio looks, but I think it was so dominant it really kind of distracted from everything else. I couldn't decide. I really thought it tied in well with that photograph, but at the same time it was really, that's straight where my eye went every time, and that kind of bothered me a bit. So I just took a couple more of those We Are Memory Keepers cards under there, mostly to kind of tie some colors in. And I didn't end up using any of those the little tag from the napkin that I thought was inspiring. I'm going to save that for something else, or that idea. I still think it would look great on that glassine paper, but just not with this. It was more of that, like I said, that sort of brown color it was much more yellowed. So I'd cut out one of those sort of half stumps, and then I decided to punch out, sorry I'm a bit out of frame, punch out that top left corner from that circle punch and put the piece behind it to give it a little bit more dimension. And then I decided to go ahead and punch some stitches in it and have a piece of the gold sitting behind it to kind of just bring a little bit more attention to it, and to use another one of the punches. So I think I used 3 border punches: the stitch punch, the notebook edge, and the postage edge. And then the only regular punch I used was the circle punch. I thought I would use some other ones, but I didn't end up doing that. Those are the wood veneers. They're from, I believe that's, it might be Freckled Fawn. I don't think they're Studio Calico. So I'm trying to decide there whether or not I wanted to use any of those kind of colors. So I'm trying to decide. I do a lot of fiddling, and especially kind of at the end. I mean, this is pretty much the way the layout looks in the end, but I go back and forth with a lot of how and why and how it's going to work out, and trying things out just till I get happy with it and decide it looks better, or until I run out of time and get frustrated. So I think I've decided to commit now, and I kind of just tack everything down where I've got it, so I don't forget where everything is placed. Sometimes I'll take a photograph with my phone, but I was kind of under the gun trying to finish this before kids came home from school. So now I really commit and put that right in the middle there. I thought about stitching some of that down, but by the time I got all those layers on, I was afraid it would really mess up my there would be too much glue on it. So I'm pretty much going to put everything back the way I had it right before I took it apart, and I had to cut some of that down a bit so I can use the other piece, and because there's no sense in having that layer back there, and I had already glued the other piece down. So actually I did not back that with the gold. I backed it with the other piece of that yellow sort of ochre journaling card. So I decided to use that stitch edge punch there at the bottom, and that's why I would hang. I was going to do that all the way across, and thought I would hang all of those hearts or different elements off of it, kind of like the sketch shows, but I didn't really want to use it on that pocket from Basic Gray. So I was going to use twine or that jute jute twine, but I thought it might be a little too thick and a little too heavy, so I decided to use some gold thread that I have, and I just wrapped it around there a couple times, and I get pretty frustrated with it because it is really thin. I like the way it turned out, but that's a solid one of those hearts from Pink Paisley that I punched with my well, I guess that was the other punch. I used my crocodile to punch through. So I thought I got it all the way in, and then the whole thing slipped out, so I'm going back again. You'll see. And I did end up using the sticky part of those hearts, but I want it to look like it was sort of hanging down, and then once everything got in place, then I used the adhesive on the back of those. And it's a pretty strong adhesive. I found this little chipboard banner piece from My Mind's Eye from, I think it's the Indie Chic collection, which is maybe a year or more ago. And the colors went well with it, so I decided to use it at the top there. And I used another one of those little wood veneer banners, and that's the twine I was talking about using, but I just used one little piece of it there at the top. And I put one of those little Pink Paisley little tiny hearts on it, and just used my tiny attacher to punch it to the top, attach it to the top. I just used that other punch to weight it down a bit. I didn't use that tiny circle one. So now I'm trying to decide, instead of hanging those other hearts from another part of that stitched edge punch, or just gluing it under, what I could do. So I actually tied it to a little button, and I put the button right kind of under the photo there. I knew that the title was going to go there, and I still haven't really quite decided how that was going to happen, so I think I left the string pretty long until I got the title worked out. So I take those are the thickers. I mean, they're a nice little vanilla, and they have a lot of texture to it, so I think it shows up well. I mean, almost like it's kind of snowy, or like sprinkles or something. It makes that gold pal paper seem much more subtle and much lighter than a real gold. Then I decided I needed something else behind the title to kind of ground it a bit and to give it a little bit of contrast. I didn't want it just sort of sitting on top of all of that, so I put some wood grain washi there underneath part of that die cut, and then on top of part of it, and that's what I put the thickers onto for my title. And that is pretty much the way the layout ends up. I think I'd just spend the rest of the time pretty much fussing with these other little buttons and hearts and trying to make some decisions about how things should sit. There you can see I took the adhesive off and have it sitting there right next to the eye, which was sort of a happy accident. That was not necessarily planned. So I glue those little wood veneers down with some Tombow Mono. And I didn't really want to do the same thing with that last smaller heart, so I just ended up wadding up some of the leftover thread I had underneath it and just stuck it to the page. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to overkill it too much. I thought about sort of hanging it from that branch, but I really didn't feel like trying to mess with it to make it look like it was doing that, and I was afraid I would end up tearing that little die cut, those leaves. I stuck that first F letter on top of that die cut, so I had to use some. When I pulled it up again, it lost some of the sticky, so I used some more adhesive on it. So I think I decide that's pretty much it, and I finally adhere my photographs, which is usually the last thing because they are usually popped up that way. This is a very thick and deep layout. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out in one of my binders. It may need to be the first page, or it may be something that I put into one of those scrapbook frames or this sort of shadow box things, because that metal piece is very thick, and honestly I think that's why I haven't used them before for a layout. They might be better for a gift or something. So, and I keep going back to that love her tag. That I did use that other piece of flair from Scrapbook Circle with the little heart and the house, and that's the other one, the 2013 one. So this is the last little bit of fiddling where I put a couple little chipboard pieces from that Teresa Collins line, and then I write my journaling there on the side. I just threw that little piece of gold down that was left over from one of those punches. Just they were sitting on my desk, so I thought it'd be great to use them, and it just brought a little bit more of that sparkle to a different part of the page. And then I keep thinking maybe I should add some more stuff, and I think that's the last little piece I add. No, that's not true. I keep going back and adding more until I think I'm done. So I used this date punch from Dear Lizzie, date stamp. And then I do use one of these little chipboard slides from crepe paper, and I put it around that piece of flair there on the side, and that pretty much finishes it off. You can see the close-ups here in a moment and the finished product at the end. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love any feedback and comments that you have, and be sure to go to the Scrap Our Stash blog and check out the challenge and see all the rules and details about it. They have a fantastic prize that I wish I could win from Lawn Fawn, and I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with. Thanks so much. Bye.